Greetings. Hey, thanks for joining us here on the Business of Agriculture podcast. It's me, your host, Damian Mason. Got a great show for you today because we got a great guest with relevant and timely information. His name is Rob Saik. He's a friend of the show. He's been on here before, and he's got some amazing news and also something that can help us, again, very, very timely, because we're going to talk about today, what do you do when the farm and the whole entire agricultural industry needs information, but we're social distancing, we're less able to travel than we've been for a long time. That's what we're going to be talking about today with Rob Saik. If you're watching, because as you know, dear listener, you've always been able to get the Business of Agriculture via your favorite podcast format. You can get it iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud. You can always find it at DamianMason.com. But here in the last few months, we've cracked this whole thing. We said, let's put it on YouTube also. So if you're watching this, you're seeing me and then the handsome Albertan, known as Rob Saik, who's sitting there, and his backdrop looks like he's in a tropical locale. We're going to address that because it doesn't look like any part of Alberta I've ever been to. The Business of Agriculture is brought to you by our good friends at harvestprofit.com. Actually, it's just called Harvest Profit, but their website is harvestprofit.com. If you know someone in the business of agriculture, a farmer you work with, maybe you are a farmer, maybe a small agricultural enterprise. They need software that can make them more efficient, help them make decisions, help them track their numbers, do their grain marketing. That's what Harvest Profit does. You can check out their product at harvestprofit.com. You can even put /harvestprofit/ Damian, so they'll know that you heard about them from my podcast, and that would be very good for me. But you can get a 14-day free trial there. So check out harvestprofit.com. They're a friend of the show, and I really appreciate their sponsorship. Okay, today's topic. We're dealing with the coronavirus issue. We can't be as face-to-face. We all need information. We are in an industry that uses a tremendous amount of technology. So I thought, why not bring in a guy that's an agricultural entrepreneur, and he's always come at it from the standpoint of technology. His name is Rob Saik. He's a Canadian, but he's really a citizen of the world. Rob Saik, welcome to the Business of Agriculture.
It's good to be here in the virtual world with Damian Mason.
And okay, here's the thing. You've been on here at least twice. We talked about your credentials before. If you are not familiar, dear listener or viewer, with Rob Saik, he released a book. This came out about, summer of last year, Food 5.0, and he's always about the technology. One of his big points is there are 5 iterations of agriculture, and and he's talked about it on this podcast before. And the idea is we started with muscle and sweat, and we then worked into things like technology, chemistry, mechanization, and then genetic, and then it's Food 5.0. You said the 5th iteration is the convergence of all of those things. You are going to tell me about that now and how it works with AgVisorPro. Give it to me.
Well, it's funny that the line in the book, Damian, the first line in the book is, this morning when you woke up, did you worry about a pandemic, about plague? And, I wrote that in August of last year. Now, of course, everybody's waking up. The 4th line is, well, I didn't, at least not yet. And at least, and now we're in it. But the world is profoundly changed, and you and I are working on technology right now that is allowing us to communicate. And then we're going to broadcast this on technology, social media, that's going to allow us to get the message out further and farther than ever before. So the question that we're going to talk about today is, in a COVID and a post-COVID world, because I think agriculture will be profoundly changed, as most industries will we utilize technology in a different way? And so what really spawned my desire to talk to you today was a tweet that was made in Ontario, Canada, by a young veterinarian. And she tweeted that it's going to be sad for her not to be able to visit the farms that she works with because she can't, of course, be seen as vectoring COVID between farming operations. So she's going to have to stay away. And I looked at that and said, well, I wonder what the impact is going to be of technology in a post-COVID world on shrinking time and space. And that, I think, is kind of leading to what you and I will talk about.
Okay, real quickly, you've always been and you're not like a 26-year-old that's working in the hallowed halls of Google. You're a guy that's in his late 50s, but you have always been at the cutting edge, at the forefront of technological advancement. And you say things like shrinking time and space using technology, and I think about the business of agriculture. There's this romanticized vision that you and I know that our customers have, and you talk about in your book, and I talk about in my book, the little red barn and the ma and pa and their bib overalls and all that stuff. There's another side of it that's not quite that nostalgic, but there is this idea that the service person, the ag retailer, the feed salesman or saleswoman, they go out there and they call on Mr. and Mrs. Farmer Brown, and they do help them. And you say, well, that's kind of old fashioned. It might be in the era of online input purchases, but the thing is, Rob, we still need somebody to go out and walk that field and see what the heck's happening. We still need somebody to be a technical expert that's hard to do just on a Zoom call. And that's where AgVisorPro kind of comes in. It's like you can get information and expertise that maybe right now and maybe never moving forward, we won't be able to have this thing of Joe Blow or Cindy Lou who are over here being on my farm every day.
Right. So, that's a good segue. And we started building AgVisorPro over 18 months ago. So you got to put that into context. It was around the same time as I wrote the book. I started working on AgVisorPro. And AgVisorPro really is a connectivity platform for agriculture. So basically, it uses your phone. Your phone is the vehicle to shrink time and space. So what we've done, Damian, is we've created a platform that provides an ability to connect people who need answers with people who have expertise. So let's use the example of a farmer. A farmer has a question about a bug in a field. And so he'll get on AgVisorPro. The app is downloadable on iOS, Android, and desktop. And he'll start to type in bug or insect into the app and start to say, got an insect problem in my corn or my canola. And we've developed an algorithm that starts to triage this thing. So AgVisorPro, first of all, is like eHarmony or Tinder. There's some matching going on between somebody who's got a question and somebody potentially who has an answer. So that's the first step.
Wait a minute. For the listeners that don't know what Tinder is, that's sort of like the nightclub slutted out version of eHarmony. Am I right?
Well, eHarmony is much more sophisticated. And let's say Tinder is a little bit more
raunchy.
Crunchy.
It's like farmersonly.com meets a more, shall we say, ecstasy fueled all-inclusive resort. Anyway, go ahead.
Bachelor farmer seeking a woman who wants to live on farm with tractor. Please send picture of tractor.
Yeah, right. Okay, anyway, so you're sitting there, 2 years ago, year and a half ago, you say, I see a marketplace that obviously is evolving. Agriculture is no different. You and I always point this out, that this idea that somehow we're just, no offense to Michael Bloomberg. Hey, you dig a hole, you throw a seed corn in there, cover it dirt. And while the truth is, planting corn isn't necessarily that, to defend Michael Bloomberg. The act of actually hooking up to a planter, going out and putting it in the ground, it's probably not rocket science. However, it took people that were pretty damn brilliant to figure out how to create a great corn planter and the great genetics, the amazing genetics that we put a corn seed in the ground and it's got all this technology that keeps bugs from eating it. I mean, that's where the gray matter was, and Michael Bloomberg never understood it. You looked at an industry that said boatloads of technology is needed and is already being applied, but why is it that Uber, I can just be in a big city and I can get me a car? Some random guy shows up with a car and picks me up outside of a bar and takes me back to my hotel. You said, why the hell are we not doing this in agriculture?
Yeah, in fact, I often say that AgVisorPro is the Uberization of knowledge and wisdom for agriculture. So somebody who has a question will start to type in that question on our app, and the algorithm will match him up with advisors that are available. And Damian, just like Uber we have different level of advisors. We got PhD levels of advisors. We got deep domain experts. We got agronomy level. We got livestock people. Farmers could advise other farmers. And so we create the matching. And then what happens is a farmer makes a decision. Say, I'd like to talk to that person. The next thing we do is create connectivity. And the connectivity is happening right inside the app. So you never leave it. So it defaults to an audio connection, goes to video, chat, and picture sharing. So if I had a question about a bug in the field, I could look and find out who's really good on entomology and connect with that person, talk to them, and then I could flick over and show them what I'm seeing in the field. I could shrink time and space. The whole session, Damian, is archived. So the whole session is there for reference by the farmer or the user later on. And then there's a rating system. And then in the case of an independent, the farmer would pay, or the advisor, whoever was using it, would pay the person providing the answer, just like you pay for your Uber car. So we built the whole thing. So it's a combination of eHarmony. It's a combination of Uber. It's a combination of FaceTime. Yeah, it's a combination of Twitter. It all comes together.
Or even
in a way.
It's a combination of encyclopedia, or you could say Wikipedia. Now, the thing is, if I type in, and if someone tells me they heard something on Wikipedia, I'm like, let's find a little bit more credible source. Exactly. So here, as you're talking about it, is like, and this doesn't matter. I could be an organic cranberry grower,
doesn't matter,
or I could be a 50,000 cow dairy. It doesn't really matter what I am, because yours is a conduit. Your thing is a conduit, and all I need is, if I say I'm the organic cranberry grower in a patch in Wisconsin, I just need to know somebody in Massachusetts that's dealt with this cranberry rust, if there is such a thing.
Well, that's one of the first people that signed up actually was a beekeeper, and her name is Jennifer Schwarzenberger, and she signed up and she said, "Do you have anybody on there who's talking about bee production?" And I said, "No, I don't." She said, "Well, I'd love to do that." So she signed up as an apiarist. And Scott Mears, for example, is one of our neck of the woods. He's one of the best entomologists, and we've got grain marketers and a guy named Tom Wolf, who's one of the best sprayer guys in the industry. So when you, like on Twitter, Damian, you're going to get run-of-the-mill general issues. But I think when a farmer is ready to pull a decision on an issue that's going to cost him, him or her $20, $30, $50,000, they want to get some domain expertise to gut check and to make sure that they're doing the right things. And I think that's where technology like AgVisorPro comes in, because it connects, allows people to stretch their brains and not their bodies. Just because I'm not on your farm doesn't mean that I can't help you with your crop nutrition. My background is plant physiology. So I just need the information, and then we can use it as a conduit. And if I'm an independent person, you're an independent person, you need to get paid for your knowledge and wisdom. That's fair dinkum.
Okay, so that's the thing I was going to ask you about. I'm on Twitter. You're on Twitter. We have to be because of our clientele and whatnot. There's times that I hate it. I don't even want to see it because it's toxic. Hey, hashtag ag Twitter. Has anybody ever dealt with this? And then you get some dick that wants to, and then it becomes this downward spiral of idiocy. And I don't prefer that as my information source, and it shouldn't be for most people. So instead, I'm getting a little bit brighter with your thing. I can find that beekeeper and say, hey, my hive I've read about this thing called beehive colony collapse.
Yeah.
Am I at risk of this? And that person says, well, here's the actual experience that I have.
Let's go inside the hive. Take a picture, a close-up of that bee, and let me magnify it to find out if there's any varroa mites on your bee. That would be a good thing to do.
Would be indeed. Now, here's the thing, Rob. I want to be an expert on there about my level of expertise. How do I get paid?
All right. So if you have a deep level of expertise, you're a dairy background. So let's say you're a dairy expert. You would come on AgVisorPro and you would create a profile for yourself. So the first thing would be your professional designations, your education, your level of experience, the areas of dairy that you're good in, and that would begin to set up your profile so farmers could find you. That's how we would do it.
By the way, Dear listeners and viewers, I am a dairy guy. Don't confuse with that example that I would ever call myself a dairy expert. I don't want any of my good dairy friends to reach out and say, "Hey, Mr. Dairy Expert, have you ever dealt with the mastitis when it morphs into this in the back right udder?" Like, no, listen to that. Hey, by the way, not only do I love to give a little tout to my buddy Rob, because I gave him an endorsement for his book, Food 5.0, and he gave me an endorsement for my book, Food Fear, because we're both ag guys. But we also know about the need to give credit where credit is due, and that's why we're going to take a little 2-second break right here and remind you that the Business of Agriculture is brought to you by Harvest Profit. Nick Horeb is the founder of Harvest Profit. He's out of Fargo, North Dakota, but that doesn't matter to you or any of their customers, because he serves customers in 26 states and 4 Canadian provinces. He's got over 600 customers, and they continue to grow. This is the first advertising he has done. You know why? His company was built by that old-fashioned thing about word of mouth. And I always say word of mouth is a complete misnomer. It's word of reputation that you worked really hard to establish. The reason that his customers went and told other people to become customers is because the product worked for them. Harvest Profit is a software solution that can help you being able to make more confident, proactive, and ultimately more profitable decisions on your agricultural enterprise. You can check it out at harvestprofit.com. Back to my friend Rob Saik here on the Business of Agriculture.
Let me bounce right off of that. So you got Harvest Profit, which is a data platform for farmers, and I, as an agronomist, would need access to that data platform. But if I had access to the soil compositions, the soil tests, and I had access to the planters that you were running or the seeders that you were running and the types of fertilizer that were available, I could start to program your fields for you, even though I wasn't on your field. So basically, I'm remote coaching you right now. All we need to do as experts in the field is I need more information. So just think about what's going on today. I mean, if we have weather station technology or soil sensor devices or carbon dioxide advisors, sensors that are inside of grain storage or in potato storage, and you had a potato storage issue, what you need to do is to talk to expertise that can walk you through what to do and what not to do, because it could be a dicey situation. Now, that expert can't visit your farm today. So again, my question is, how do we shrink time and space, and how do we create value for those people who have expertise who can help others in the agricultural community? That's really what we've done.
Okay, so you had this idea, you've got the whole thing rolling, you have people signing up as experts, but I'm still wondering about the transaction. So I want to get paid. I say, do I set my rate?
Yep. So as the expert, there'd be 3 rates right now. We're still going through a lot of iterations yet, Damian. It's early days yet, but right now there's a $30 and a $45 and a $60 rate. And for 10 minutes, we found out that most problems can be solved in that. And if you need to extend the conversation, then it can be extended longer. I also want to mention, Damian, that we're also making available to the industry, to the people that have customers out there, agribusiness who have farm customers. Those farmers can connect to the agribusiness on something called Tech Direct on AgVisorPro for free. So if you're a fertilizer company, you could list your 5 or 6 reps as technical reps on AgVisorPro, and the farmer could connect to your company for absolutely free. And we make our money by working a deal out with the company then. So there's 2 levels we have right now. One is an independent advisor would get paid like Uber does for the ride or the brain sharing. And then on the industry side, we've created Tech Direct, which basically creates connectivity between farm customers and the technical people in the field who could answer the question. And what I'm after here, Damian, is I want to eliminate the 1-800 number, because that experience, 1-800 with most companies, is a bad experience for the customer. So let's eliminate 1-800. Let's go Tech Direct.
You know, I really like you brought that up. Okay, so first off, you said a bunch of interesting stuff there. You said most problems can be solved in 10 minutes. Where'd you come up with that? Is that just your gut, or did you research that? Because I agree. I don't disagree by any means.
Well, no, that comes from, well, hell, we built AgriTrend for over 20 years. We had hundreds of consultants working with thousands of farmers on millions of acres. And generally, if you skip the small talk, well, how you doing today? What's COVID doing? How's the rain doing? Did it rain? Did it not rain? What's the price of grain? Blah, blah, blah. And you get to it, Damian, this is my issue. This is my problem. This is what I'm seeing here. Let me show you what I'm looking at. Generally, you can get a question solved in 10 minutes. Now, if you need to push it a little bit, no big deal. The price goes down. But the reality is, let's quit the small talk and let's solve the problem. You got to get an answer now.
You know, this is why I like having you around. That's why, and the viewers and listeners might know that you and I actually have a friendship, besides the fact that we get together and do recordings and endorse one another's books, but we also enjoy getting together and throwing back a drink and talking about stuff. You say some smart stuff. Most problems can be solved in 10 minutes, and we don't need to carry on about the weather. Actually, most things in agriculture, we always make a joke about our friends that are farmers. Imagine, we always say they only really work about 4 to 6 weeks in the spring and 4 to 6 weeks in the fall. Imagine if they weren't talking about weather during that time. It could be shrunk down to like 2 weeks. Okay.
Listen, I'm not biting that because I want to stay friendly with my farmers.
Oh, you know, I have to give a jab to my farm pals all the time. As I always point out, hey, going around the country and talking for a living, that didn't work. I said, well, driving down to the FSA office and signing up for your farm program's not work either, is it? Anyway, my farmers and I get along fine. They know I rib them, they rib me. Okay, let's talk about this, the more important part. You said the most problems can be solved in 10 minutes. Then you talked about actually hitting the ground run and doing that problem solving. I made the crack that I'm really not, while I'm a dairy guy, I would never call myself a dairy expert. I think I'm an ag and food guy that's verging on ag and food expert, but not a dairy expert. But what if I went on AgVisorPro and I said, I am an expert on grain sorghum? Who checks out my credentials?
Well, first of all, you have to list your association, you have to list your experience, you have to list your education. Then it's going to, very quickly, the rating system kicks in. So it won't take very long before you start getting a bunch of 1 ratings. And then we know that we're going to drop you down because you've misrepresented yourself. That's the shortest answer I have right now. Over time, what I want to do is put a reference system so that you vouch for me when I come on.
Is the rating from 1 to 5?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the marketplace quickly learns that they had spent $30 and they gave me a 1, say this guy doesn't even know what grain sorghum is, but he says he's a grain sorghum expert. Okay.
Well, at that kind of a rating, we would intervene and find out why the rating was so low. And then we would talk to the advisor about maybe leaving, and we'd probably refund the farmer's money too, because it's just not fair.
That's the big thing. So how do you make money?
Well, we get a percentage of the Uber ride. So we get a percentage of the money that the farmer would pay through his credit card. We'd debit his credit card. We'd hold on to that money for 10 days, and then we'd clear the majority of it to the advisor, and then we'd take our margin from that. From the industry perspective, our model is slightly different. From the industry perspective, we would charge an annual fee to be an industry partner with AgVisorPro, and then we would make so much per connection session. And so we're just working out the details of all that right now, Damian, but that's the way it would work.
Okay, so let's just think about that. So I am XYZ company. I am a big, huge agricultural company. If I just say, hey, advisor, I'm going to give you a bunch of money, and I'll make all of my people free as advisors, and Jane over here is expert on this, and Bob's an expert on that. So that could be the case. Where do we make it then that do you see a day where the farmer doesn't even pay for any of this? They just have access to it. It's kind of like
I don't see that. I see that when a farmer connects to an industry person, there are really great industry people out there. But at the end of the day, there's a bias there to sell some product or some service or some piece of equipment, and that's fair. But I think that farmers recognize that when you have deep domain knowledge, I think of a Dr. Ian Evans, who's a pathologist, or Elston Solberg, who's got 40 years of fertility information stuck inside his cranium. I think that farmers realize that those are really, really valuable people. Phil Needham from Kentucky is a wheat expert on AgVisorPro, and he's got vast experience. And yeah, Phil sells some corn planter gadgets and stuff, but really, if you're talking to him about a wheat, you're getting some pretty valuable advice. So AgVisorPro is a connectivity platform. It wasn't designed, Damian, to be a consulting platform. It was designed to connect. And some of the best advice that you could get as a farmer may come from another farmer who's got really deep domain advice. And shouldn't that other farmer get paid by the other farmer for solving problems? Of course he should. And
well, I believe that, and you believe that. You and I are both in the information commentary with content sort of business. I get paid to get on stage and talk, and they're like, hey, I can go and talk for free. I said, well, a lot of times you get paid what you're worth, and if it's free. So I get the idea of paying for it. And, you're right. This is a revenue source. There are some farm operators that truly are. They're average at this aspect of their business, because we all have that. We all have, even within our business. I wear 19 hats as a sole proprietor. I'm amazing at 3 things. I'm okay at 10 things, and I'm pretty crappy at 6 things, just the way it goes. I mean, but we have to, the same thing with a farm person. You know what? I'm really good at getting alfalfa tonnage and the best protein values and what they use it, relative feed values out of my alfalfa. So there's a guy that could be a forage expert, and it's not because he even works for a seed company. It's because he just has produced a lot of forage in his career as a farmer. I mean, there is that thing, right?
Well, sure. And some farmers are experts at grain marketing. Some guys have really deep domain knowledge at grain marketing. Why shouldn't they get paid for helping somebody else out? I just spoke with a farmer today who is an expert on risk programs for farmers, combining federal programs, insurance programs with private insurance programs. And he shared with me today some amazing numbers right now on reducing risk on a farm right now. Now, if he has that kind of domain knowledge, what's that worth to another farmer? Well, it's worth huge amounts of money.
Yeah.
So can another farmer pay him $100 for that? I think so. I think so.
Yeah, I think so. So you said the pricing structure works that, and I have a credit card on file, kind of like with Uber. Is that the way it works? Like I just say, hey, man, I need somebody who can really help me with my alfalfa forage question. I got a thing about this, some kind of a rust problem, fungus, whatever you want to talk about it. Boom. Here's my expert. And they just took $45 and it came out of my Visa card.
Exactly. That's exactly how so the reason that you use Uber, just think about that, is number one, you know it's reliable. Number two, you know what the cost is up front. Number 3, you know the rating of the driver. Number 4, you know how long it's going to be before he shows up. So with AgVisorPro, if you try to reach the advisor for a session, he can see that you're trying to reach him, and he can say, I'm going to postpone this for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or 15 minutes. Or he's going to say, I simply can't take it. Or he's going to say, can you schedule? And if you can schedule, we built scheduling into it as well. So all of the stuff that makes Uber run, we built into AgVisorPro.
All right. I want to start using it as soon as I get back to my farm here next month. How do I do it?
Well, you go to iOS, Android, or desktop and download the platform, download the app, AgVisorPro. You can go to our website, AgVisorPro, AgVisorPro, AgVisorPro.com, and see the information there. And then you download it, upload your profile as a farmer, and you don't have to put in your credit card until you're actually ready to transact or to engage with an expert on a session. So that's how we build it too. So it's really easy to install and upload. I should say that right now we're still loading up the U.S. states and U.S. agricultural regions. So right now, if you go there, you're going to choose a Canadian province as default, but we'll load up all the U.S. side right away.
So you're about a couple of weeks away from that being ready to go?
Probably less, yeah.
Less than that. And here's the great news. By the time you're listening to this podcast, it's probably already ready to go. So go to AgVisorPro.com. Is that what I'm going to? AgVisorPro.com. I'm not going to do this. All right. So I think, and I don't have to pay anything to get it to start.
Nope.
And then you said load up your profile, and you also had already referenced Tinder. Do I need to put a picture of me wearing like really tight Levi's with like a fence post driver in my hand, and then like maybe a hammer in his hand, and maybe like like a real.
I think in your case, your profile would be more accurate if you had a Coors Light in a Coors banquet in one hand and a cigar in the other. And you should not put pictures on there that misrepresent yourself, Damian. So you should be honest.
So me shirtless driving fence posts, which I certainly have done, although usually not shirtless, it would not be a representation. You're saying the representation should be with a Coors banquet and a cigar, and I could sell that expertise all day long. I think I'm probably as good at that as anything.
Well, the interesting thing is you have tremendous expertise, because your expertise really is about how do you communicate agriculture with people who don't understand agriculture, and you've worn the wounds of that. So there's a lot of people out there who may want to reach out and say, Damian, this guy is hitting me on this, and I before I respond, I'd just really like to talk to you, and it may be a very short conversation, and you may solve some real big problems and prevent people from stepping in it or on the rake big time.
That is probably true. Last minute, here's the deal. You've been on this show before, and you were the CEO of DOT. I reference DOT as an autonomous farm machinery company that I believe really does personify the future of how this is going to look. We're going to have machines that get smaller. They're going to be autonomous, and they'll be programmed off of your phone or your laptop, and they're going to do a lot of the things that right now we have a person sitting in a seat turning a steering wheel to do. DOT has now been bought. You're no longer with them. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Norbert Bugeaud out of Regina, Saskatchewan was the inventor of DOT, named after his mom, Dorothy, and invented the U-shaped robotic platform, and brought me on board as a contract CEO to help him. So I was building AgVisorPro with my partner, Patrick Walter. And so I said, yeah, I'll do this gig with you. I'll help to take DOT to the next level. And fortunately, Raven stepped up and made a majority purchase. And then in March, completed the total purchase of DOT from the Bugeaud family. And that basically concluded my mission with DOT. And DOT is now in the capable hands of Raven Industries out of South Dakota. And that freed me up to pursue, AgVisorPro. So I came on as CEO, and lo and behold, COVID hit, and holy crap, I've been working like 10, 12 hours a day, because we set the sails because we knew agriculture was going to change, and how people were going to communicate was going to change. We knew the winds were blowing, and then the hurricane of COVID hit. So we're right in the middle of it.
And we all are. You've been listening to the Business of Agriculture podcast. Reminder, you can catch it on YouTube. Please subscribe when you go there. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. What that will do is it'll help visibility so that other people can more easily find the Business of Agriculture podcast, folks that need to hear this message. The Business of Agriculture is brought to you by my good friends at Harvest Profit, Nick Horeb and his team. They will help your enterprise, your agriculture enterprise, be more profitable, manage your numbers. It's a software solution that's easy to use. If you don't know if it's going to be right for you, they have a 14-day free trial. Go to harvestprofit.com. You can look at your numbers by field to field. You can compare landlord to landlord. It's the information software solution you need for your ag enterprise. His name's Rob Saik. He's not only the author of Food 5.0, he is the founder of AgVisorPro. So if you want to check him out, again, find you at
AgVisorPro.com.
AgVisorPro.com. Thanks for being here, buddy.
Thank you. Be safe, man. Pass hi to Lori.
Oh, you betcha. Until next time, it's the Business of Agriculture.